Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern, where in 5 minutes or less we talk about an important artist, artwork, or concept in the history of modern art. My name is Cindy, and today we're facing the end of art. Okay, so maybe that was a little overly dramatic, but that's actually what many artists thought when Frank Stella debuted his black paintings in 1959. To understand why these paintings were so shocking in their day, let's first talk about what was going on in the art world at that time. The late 1940s and 1950s were the age of abstract expressionism. Artists like Jackson Pollock, Willem de Kooning, and Helen Frankenthaler covered canvases with paint in freewheeling, non-representational compositions. They were inspired by forerunners like Janet Sobel, mentioned in an earlier video on this channel, as well as by the surrealist concept of automatic painting. That is, moving paint spontaneously across the canvas without any premeditation. The idea was that by making these impulsive splashes and drips of paint across the canvas, artists could express feelings and creativity held deep within the subconscious, more pure than anything that a painter might intellectually conceive of. In the wake of years of free and spontaneous abstraction, Frank Stella burst into the scene with his Spartan and precise black paintings. Stella's work debuted at the Museum of Modern Art's 1959 exhibit 16 Americans when he was only 23 years old. In each one of his 24 black paintings, Stella applied equal width bands of black paint in parallel lines to form simple geometric shapes, allowing a smaller stripe of the white canvas to show between each of his black bands. Maybe these paintings look sort of plain in comparison to the bold abstract expressionist work from the beginning of the video, but that was actually the point. Stella wanted to make deliberately flat paintings, eschewing any of the artistic techniques or embellishments favored by his forerunners in abstractionism. He even did without the precise paintbrushes and oil paint that artists typically used, instead using commercial-grade enamel paint and a house painter's brush, with each band of black paint being exactly as wide as the brush was. As artist and writer David Salle notes, Stella also did away with drawing in his work. Rather than working from sketches or outlines, he just applied paint. After all, paint was the only subject of Stella's art. In stark contrast to automatic painting's goal of revealing creativity within the subconscious, Stella insisted that his black paintings held no symbolism or any meaning. They were solely about capturing the material properties of paint on canvas. A painting about paint itself and how paint looks. As Stella himself famously described these works, what you see is what you see. Now, there is a contradiction between that statement and the highly charged titles that Stella chose for these paintings. One was famously called Die Fahne hoch, quoting the first line of the Nazi anthem Horst Wessel Lied. Another was titled Arbeit macht frei, invoking the signs at the entrances of Nazi concentration camps. As a history graduate from Princeton, Stella undoubtedly knew of the significance of these titles, but he would insist that they were personal associations rather than a lens for viewers to interpret the works. I honestly don't know what to make of the titles. Certainly, they would seem to point to some symbolism of the work in spite of Stella's repeated denials. But ultimately, little attention would be given to the titles, and Stella's insistence on the technical and ideological simplicity of these works would drive critical and historical receptions. In describing Stella's works, art critic Clement Greenberg would coin the term post-painterly abstraction, abstract art without the artistry. And as I noted at the beginning, without that artistry, many abstract artists naturally worried that it was the end of art. And while art didn't end, it did change dramatically. Led by the example of Stella and others, a new crop of artists sprung up to practice minimalism, an art movement that set aside both symbolism and stylistic touches to focus on simplicity. Just like Stella's black paintings, minimalist works have clean lines and precise geometric shapes, and to focus on the properties of their own materials rather than any message. Stella himself, having stripped painting down to its barest essentials, would then begin to experiment with an expanded palette in increasingly vibrant hues. Color me impressed. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one and learned something new. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.